Hi everybody, I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Thursday, May 21st. This is your 3 News Now afternoon update. There are a ton of things to get through today. News just kept happening. It was just pouring in all afternoon, so we will get you caught up on everything there is to know. We will start with the most up-to-date COVID-19 numbers here in the state of Ohio, which were just released from the Ohio Department of Health. New cases are way up today, but deaths are a little bit down, so now we'll dive into those actual numbers. Here in the state of Ohio, we have now broken 30,000 total reported cases of COVID-19 since we first learned of it being here on March 9th. The total number is 30,167 confirmed and probable cases of COVID-19. That's based on the expanded CDC definition that does include positive test cases as well as probable cases. And from yesterday to today, we saw 731 new COVID-19 cases reported from yesterday to today in the last 24 hours. Now, that is the largest day-to-day spike that we have seen since May 8th. So a couple of weeks there since we've seen a spike that big. This is way up from yesterday when we saw 484 new cases. Prior to this spike today, we had had 2 days back-to-back of the numbers dropping here in Ohio, but now we are right back up there. In terms of the number of deaths, there have now been 1,836 total deaths related to COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. The number of new deaths reported from yesterday to today is down. That's 55 new deaths reported in the last 24-hour reporting. Now, do keep in mind there is a little bit of a lag on these numbers, so these new cases and these new deaths could have happened in the past several days, but they were reported today at 2 p.m. by the Ohio Department of Health. Yesterday, we saw 61 new deaths. The day before that, we saw 63. So it had been going down just ever so slightly. So we've got 3 days of downward numbers in terms of new deaths here in the state of Ohio. In terms of the total number of hospitalizations, now we are at 5,295. So that's 97 new hospitalizations reported today. That is up from yesterday. And the number of people who are currently hospitalized is now 892. People who are actually currently at this present time hospitalized related to COVID-19. The total number of intensive care unit admissions is now 1,397. That is with 28 new reported ICU admissions today and a total of 349 people actively in the ICU at this time. Now, if we take a look at new COVID-19 numbers across the U.S. and globally, both new cases and new reported deaths in the last 24 hours are down in the U.S. and globally. So that's good news. Across the U.S., there have been 25,130 new reported COVID-19 cases today. That brings the total to almost 1.6 million. That's 1,562,714 to be exact. This is based on Johns Hopkins University's numbers. In terms of the new deaths, today in the U.S., there were 1,476 new deaths reported, bringing us to a total of 93,863 total deaths in the U.S. since we first learned of COVID-19 being present here in the country. Worldwide, there were almost 100,000 new cases reported today, 99,498 new cases reported today, bringing that worldwide total to 5,047,000. And in terms of new deaths, there were 4,944 new deaths reported today, bringing the global total of deaths to 329,816. Now, when we are talking about the deaths here in Ohio and the total number of deaths, which again, the total number of deaths now in Ohio is at 1,836, we have learned some pretty shocking information from our 3 News investigative team, including Rachel Polanski and Phil Trexler. 70% of Ohio's COVID-19 deaths are nursing home residents. And over 1,800 long-term care facility workers have tested positive for COVID-19 since March. The overall total of deaths accounts for so the number of deaths in Ohio related to COVID-19 of people who are in these long-term facilities, 70% of the deaths that were reported yesterday. 1,247 people who have died from COVID-19 are in long-term care facilities. We're just learning this information because Ohio Department of Health Director Dr. Amy Acton had previously issued an order that nursing homes not release this information because of privacy concerns, but she changed course on that on April 15th, and with the help of 3 News's attorney, 3 News was able to get those records released. So Governor Mike DeWine has said that he is upping testing in those places, and the Ohio National Guard will actually help to make that happen. Here in Ohio, restaurants are allowed to open for in-person dining today, in-room dining today. Some of the other things that are allowed to open today are campgrounds. Horse racing without spectators will reopen tomorrow. And then May 26th is when we see those gyms and fitness centers, pools, BMV locations, and low-contact sports being allowed to open. However, there was a judge yesterday who ruled that gyms and fitness centers can now reopen without penalty. So keep that in mind. You may see gyms and fitness centers reopening sooner than May 26th, but that was the official word from Governor Mike DeWine. It won't be until May 31st that child care centers and day camps will be able to open, and we are still waiting for word on movie theaters, casinos and racinos, zoos and aquariums, amusement parks, water parks, and gatherings of people at large events. Some more news about the business side of things. L Brands, which is an Ohio-based company, will be closing 250 Victoria's Secret stores and 50 Bath and Body Works locations. So this is across the U.S. and Canada where these closures will take place because the company saw a sales drop of 37% last quarter. So the plan now, according to the company, is to establish Bath and Body Works as its own singular niche public company, and then prepare Victoria's Secret's lingerie, beauty, and PINK lines to operate as a separate, standalone company. Remember, Les Wexner did step down as the CEO and chairman of the board of L Brands on May 14th, and that was tied to news of what was then an approved sale of the Victoria's Secret brand, but that did not end up going through. So we don't know exactly which locations will close. We'll have to wait and see how many of those are actually here in the state of Ohio. In some entertainment news, Fuller House's Lori Loughlin and her fashion designer husband Mossimo Giannulli have actually decided to plead guilty in the college admissions bribery scandal. If you remember, they had been accused of spending $500,000 to get their daughters Olivia Jade and Isabella Rose into the University of Southern California, and they had been holding out that they had done nothing wrong for a very long time. But today we're learning that they will now plead guilty. The charges that they had faced could have seen them up to 20 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. But in addition to pleading guilty, they've gotten reduced prison time. So under Lori Loughlin's plea agreement, she'll be sentenced to 2 months in prison, a $150,000 fine, and 2 years of supervised release with 100 hours of community service. Mossimo Giannulli, however, will be sentenced to 5 months in prison, a $250,000 fine, 2 years of supervised release, and 250 hours of community service. And those differences in their sentencing are based on the different levels of participation. That's according to the Department of Justice. So apparently Mossimo had a more direct role and Loughlin had a more passive role, though they were both involved, and this is what they'll be doing now. It'll be interesting to see if they actually serve any jail time, while many people are serving jail time in their homes. So that may have been something that motivated them to plead guilty at this time when they had been holding off for so long. So we'll have to see about that. Here's some good news locally. iPromise's housing development in Akron has been awarded $10 million in tax credits. So iPromise is undertaking this housing development with the East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation, and that's the organization that was awarded $10 million in low-income housing in order for this housing development to go forward. So this is something that we've been hearing LeBron James talk about for a while. Housing insecurity is a major factor when it comes to low-income situations and people who are struggling in schooling when they're youth. So something he wants to do to take care of that is to build this iPromise housing community. And the development is just a half-mile away from the school. So there will be 50 affordable housing units, which will have 2, 3, and 4-bedroom apartments. And the people who live there will have access to job and family services, medical and mental health, educational and career advancement training, and financial literacy programming. The total project is expected to cost about $13 million. So they've got a $10 million tax credit coming their way, which is very exciting. Now, a programming note for you to be aware of today. NBC's Red Nose Day special is tonight. That starts at 8 p.m. They're tweaking it. It's going to be a little bit different. This is the 6th annual airing in support of Red Nose Day, which is a day where you can get yourself usually in person, but now you can get yourself a virtual red nose, and that will help fund initiatives to fight child poverty and help children who are living in poverty. So tonight, it's a 3-hour event. One of the staples will be Jack Black's Celebrity Escape Room. So Lisa Kudrow, Courtney Cox, Ben Stiller, and Adam Scott will be trying to get out of escape rooms put together by Jack Black, and every time they get out of a room, more money will be donated to help those children living in poverty. There will also be all kinds of comedy and fun surprises, so make sure you check that out. That's right here on NBC3 in Cleveland. That's at 8 p.m. One more reminder for you. We need your help making masks. 3 News' Betsy Kling is heading up an effort to get 10,000 masks to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. We've got about 3,000 right now, which is amazing, but we need 7,000 more. So if you know how to sew, if you know people with access to a sewing machine, if you've got materials that you can donate, get your friends together, get people involved, let us know if you would like to help. And if you can come up with 250 masks, Betsy Kling said that she would personally come and pick them up, which would obviously be pretty great. Who doesn't want to see Betsy Kling at the end of their driveway safely picking up a box of masks to take to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, right? So we have a link if you need directions on how to actually sew, and also all of the places that you can drop it off if you don't get 250 masks together. So make sure you check that out. This has been your afternoon update for 3 News Now for Thursday, May 21st. Next up, I'll see you at 5 p.m. on What's New. That's on 3 News, also on WKYC.com and our WKYC app, and on YouTube. And then we'll see you at 6 p.m. on What Matters Most, on Front Row at 7 p.m. and What's Next at 11 p.m. And I'll see you all back here tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Everyone have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Stephanie Haney.